Probably the best one so far. Laid it on super wet. Hey everyone, welcome to modntune. I have a video here that I think you're really going to like. 3.5 hours of pure CRV rebuild content. In this video, we are taking the CRV to the next level. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, you're definitely going to want to check them out and you can see a complete teardown. We have to tie up a few loose ends from the last fabrication video. As you can see on screen, I'm finishing out these front aprons that had some pretty bad rust. I cut out the bad metal and just welded in some plates to cap it off. Now it looks really nice and we gained some wheel clearance. I also had to weld in some new metal in the strut tower area. Let me take a minute to introduce myself for any new viewers or subscribers. My name is Chev, yes, like the truck. I'm just a normal guy from Wisconsin who has a passion for Hondas and creating. I'm 37 years old and this CRV build is the accumulation of all my skills and knowledge I've obtained over my lifetime. And I'm inviting you guys into my garage to join me in restoring this CRV. Alright, to start out here, I'm sanding the bare metal areas with 80 grit and starting to feather the edge of the OEM paint. Alright, so in this next part, I'll be using some 1K self-etching primer on the bare metal areas. Looking back now, I would probably just skip this part altogether. The main primer I was using already is a 2K direct to metal primer, and I ended up sanding off most of the self-etching primer anyways, so yeah, I definitely would have skipped that if I did it again. Alright, so it's kind of hard to believe that I get to make this update here, but I have all the metal here prepped and ready to go. So let's just take one last look around. Everything's been sanded with 80 grit sandpaper and it is just looking really good. Such a long process to get to this point, but finally get to seal it all in with some self-etching metal primer. So after doing all that work fixing this stuff, last thing you want to do is put a crappy product on it. So what I got here is this 1K self-etching primer here from the auto body store. It's a little more expensive, but this is going to offer the best corrosion resistance possible. Much better than like your regular spray cans that you can get. So anyways guys, that's about it. I'll do a little bit of B-roll on painting, but this stuff flashes so quickly. It has like a 3 to 5 minute flash time. By the time I get back around, I'll be able to put another coat on. So this is going to require probably about 3 coats. And the first one is just going to be incredibly light. Bonding coat, and then I'll go over it 2 more times. But anyways, that's the update. Finally get to get this stuff done, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, we're just moving right along here. Got all of this coated. Looks really good. Have that self-etching primer on there that's going to bond really good with that bare metal. So I'm just going to keep on sanding this stuff and I'll give you periodic updates. I really want to move this process along, so I don't know how much filming I'm going to do, but I'll definitely keep you guys in the loop. But yeah, check it out. Alright guys, so we're making big progress on the CRV here. We have all the bare metal primed and it is just looking great. I also went ahead and took all the hinges off, and I got a lot more of the seam sealer off in these corner areas. There were just huge gobs of seam sealer, so pick some of that off. But as you can see, it is looking really good. Got those fender arches there. Pretty hard to believe what they looked like before. So last thing I have to do before I really start sanding here is take off this black adhesive for the windows. I'll be using this oscillating tool here. I already tried it a little bit and it took it right off, so that's good. But yeah, a long time coming. So looks really good. One thing is this whole paint and body work, I'm not going to be really touching anything past this inside barrier, this flange here. We're just going to be focusing on the outside. Interior, we can always come back later and mess with that stuff. But we're just trying to get a running, driving vehicle at the moment. That's our #1 priority. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get that black adhesive off and go on from there. Alright, kind of hard to believe, but the time has come where I get to start sanding this thing down and getting it ready for primer. A lot of work ahead of me, so not going to dilly-dally too much with the camera. We're just going to do a little montage, and next time I talk to you guys, this thing will be gray. Okay, so real quick, we're going to do something that feels wrong. I'm going to do the first sanding on this very nice paint here, so let's just do it. It just feels wrong. Alright guys, let's take a look at the CRV here. So I've been putting in very long hours wet sanding this with 320 grit and just cleaning up the remainder of the grime that has been on here. A couple things we have left to do here before we can prime this thing is use body filler on these rear quarters, get those things dialed in a little bit more. And I'm just got to tape off these factory stickers. I want to keep that stuff. I did leave the door latches in. I don't think, or I left them in on my hatchback when I painted that, and it turned out great. It just breaks the paint a little bit where that latch hits, but looks fine to me. But yeah, guys, check this out. Yeah, just to give you an idea of the wet sanding, this is all the sandpaper that it took. But I'm pretty confident I got pretty much every spot on here. So, pretty nice. So anyways, let's get into this these rear quarters here, and we'll get these mudded up, and then we can go on to prime. Alright, this part kind of sucked. I kept applying body filler and sanding it off a bunch of times. Despite what I say in a minute, this isn't going to be the last we see of the rear quarters. This side definitely went a lot quicker than the other side. It only took one application of body filler versus the 6 or 7 on the other side. But as you can see, it looks a lot better. Filled in a lot of those low spots and just reshaped it. And if you look down the body line here, looks pretty much identical on both sides. And we'll also be hitting it with the high build primer, and we'll be able to dial it in even farther. So after that, there's only 2 more things left to do before we get to prime it. I'm going to be taping off these stickers, and I got to mask off the interior and the windshield. So okay, this is the final walk around before priming. Everything has been sanded, cleaned, and is ready for paint. Alright, this is what it looked like after primer. Overall, it went pretty well. That was my first time spraying in a while, so I was a bit rusty, but I picked it back up pretty quickly. I'd say my biggest issue is with the 2mm tip. It's just a bit too big. I need to get a 1.7 for doing primer in the future. The 2mm works fine, but it leaves a slight texture. Not a big deal in my case, as I was planning on sanding it all down anyways. Alright, so I'm changing it up a little bit. I just got back from the paint store. Got some glaze putty, so hopefully we can finish these quarters out. Also got some more direct metal primer and some gun cleaner, along with these extra spreaders here. So hopefully those things will help us get a good result. We're going to start mudding these rear quarters up again. Gonna get this right. Luckily that body line here still lines up decently, but we're gonna apply more filler on there. I'm gonna continue with the finishing filler. I don't want to go back to the other stuff right now, but I got some more reinforcements here. As you saw, my other block looked horrible. So I finally got one of these Durablock sets, which I've been eyeing up for the past 10 years. And we have 3 grades of sandpaper. I think I got 80 grit, 320, and then like a mid-grade one. Another thing is this sweet body filler sheet thing. It's another thing I don't have to worry about now. While these kitty litter bucket lids, these actually worked pretty good. If you need something in a pinch, I highly recommend it. They clean off pretty decent, but we're switching to the paper, so I don't have to worry about any of that. And every time I'll be using a fresh body spreader. So I think with all that set up for me, we'll get this. So anyways, guys, let's get back into this and try to make something happen. Alright, so I think I'm on the right track now with my new tools and knowledge. on how to get this done. I stopped sanding immediately once I started seeing these dark spots come through here. So it looks like I'm going to be doing one more coat. But another thing is I was really overusing that guide coat. It's not that necessary. If you can see, the unsanded filler is a different color. So those are low spots. So I know where they are. So I'll be using less of that guide coat, and we're just going to keep doing this and see what happens. Alright guys, so I'm glad that I did not give up on this side. This quarter is finally done. Finally figured out what the heck I'm doing. That sandpaper I'm using that I got off Amazon is working wonderfully. It doesn't clog up or anything, and then I can dry sand. So this side is looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and do it all on the other side off camera so we can keep moving here. Alright, finished up with this passenger side. Finally can put these quarter panels to rest. Definitely humbled me a little bit, but I got the right tools and equipment and everything turned out fine. And I definitely gained some skill as well. So these are gonna look amazing. So definitely in a happier mood than I was when I was going through trying to get these done. Those massive wheel openings there, that is what it's all about. So this sanding change that I did really helped. I'm doing a lot more dry sanding now versus wet sanding. I always have done a lot of wet sanding, but that is apparently more of an old school way of doing things. The dry sanding is a lot faster, and you're not messing up any masking jobs or anything like that. So these blocks are amazing. I've only used one so far, but the blocks and unlimited sandpaper is just really nice to have. These sheets, this is another amazing thing to have. Makes things go way quicker. And I bought a ton of these spreaders, so you can kind of have guilt-free applications, not trying to conserve stuff so much. And in the grand scheme of things, if you add up all the extra spreaders and all this stuff, it's only maybe a couple $100, but it's going to save you a lot of grief. So anyways, that's enough talk about that. I have started wet sanding this engine bay. The core support is pretty much done being sanded. This I'm going to wet sand just because it's easier to get into the crevices and everything. So we'll have to get this. And then all these door jambs, that's going to be wet sanded as well. And then I'll dry sand the roof. I know there was a little bit of like minor hail damage up there, so hopefully the high build primer will be enough to take care of those. But we'll see if we have any low spots. But we're really getting down to the wire here of actually getting color on this thing, so I cannot wait. But anyways, I'm gonna just go on to the next part. Alright, so I owe you guys a little bit of an update here. I showed that first application of body filler here, but I actually did a couple more. Got it looking really good. Glad I decided to mud that area instead of just leaving it. Should look a little nicer when it's done, but I've already went ahead and wet sanded this entire engine bay, which took an entire day to do, probably a couple days. I lost track at this point, but I wet sanded just because it's a lot easier to get in all these crevices and everything. Just with your hand here, that's all I used. Definitely getting a good workout on those sausages. But everything from the firewall forward has been done. Even these outside aprons here, all smooth. So yeah, I'm glad that's done. Moving on to this back half here, it's going to be pretty much all dry sanding. This sandpaper I've been using has been working good. It hasn't been getting clogged up. And I just have my air hose right handy, and I'm just constantly cleaning out all of the sand particles. So I did this area here. See if I can get a good look here. I'm just having a lot of trouble focusing this camera. It always wants to focus on something else, but this is just super smooth. This is the part. It's super satisfying. Just feeling how smooth that is. So, coming along nicely. I'm not really filming any of this because I am laser focused on getting to the paint portion. I mean, we're closing in very quickly. So anyways, thought I'd do that update for you, and I'll do another one after I get the rest of the car sanded. Then we'll be doing a surface coat on the exposed body filler areas. Then we'll be doing a sealer coat on the whole thing. Then we'll be right there ready to do base coat. So moving right along. Alright, massive update. The entire CRV has been sanded down. Hours and hours and hours and hours of labor put into this thing. There's no shortcut to sanding a vehicle down. There's only one way, and that's just through time. So yeah, I put in the time, got it all sanded down, all the door jambs, spots you can't even see. And then I did the roof, which was a pretty big project. Kind of an afterthought, but just as important is doing the roof. There ended up being a few spots I needed to bodywork here. But it was just an entire day and a half of sanding just on the roof area here. So next up that I have to do is any area that I bodyworked, the rear quarters, the engine bay, the roof, I'm going to hit it with the regular surfacing primer, sand that down so it's uniform. Then we'll be able to hit it with the sealer, and then after that it should just be smooth sailing to base coat and clear. As you can see, the garage is getting absolutely destroyed. I didn't even really worry about putting up a makeshift paint booth or anything. That's what I did with the hatch. It's just a ton of extra work. I'm just going to let everything get dusty. Possibly when it comes to clear coat, I'll be just throwing a tarp over some of this stuff, but for the most part it's just getting dirty and we'll have to clean it later. But anyways, that is that big update. I have to reset here because as you can see, everything is just a mess here, but we're getting it done slowly but surely. This is going to be looking amazing, so can't wait to get this thing in paint. Just to give you guys an idea of how dusty it is, I went to go move my shirt and just look at this. That is what we're working with here, so thought that was funny. So Alright, so I'm getting reset up here to finish out the primer. There's one thing I gotta do before that is a little bit of seam sealer. So I'm going to be using this 3M two-part stuff right here. I wasn't even going to use any seam sealer because I can point out probably 100 different spots on here that don't have seam sealer from the factory that are exposed to the elements just like everything else. But there is a couple spots that I cannot ignore here, where this water runs down the roof rails here. It comes to this spot, all the water from the roof drips down here, so I'm going to put a little bit right here and cover that up, both sides. And then also there's this spot in here, if you can see, that is really going to need some, because if I leave that open, that's just a water trap there, and that would not be good. So that same area is on both sides here. So there's those. And then when I was up here in the roof rails, this is where all your water drains through. See if I can see any, like right here. There's some splitting. So I'm just sure that's not good for water to just be sitting in those cracks. So I'm going to smear a little bit in there. But other than that, I don't really see any more spots that really need any. There might be a couple spots I do underneath later, but for now, we should be good. So when they apply seam sealer on from the factory, they have like a machine that shoots it out onto the seams really quickly, and it creates that signature ripple on all the seam seals. So I'll try to vaguely recreate that with like a little toothpick, but I'm not really too concerned about that. But anyways, once I get that done, we can prime the bodyworked areas and then get this thing sealed. Alright, so I got that 3M seam sealer on there. You can check that out. It's the next day. It's hard as a rock now. Definitely don't want to get this stuff anywhere you don't want it, because it's not coming off. And then I did the roof rails up there. I smeared it in there with my fingers. But this thing is pretty much ready to go. So let me explain what is going to happen here, or my plans at least. So there's no way I can do this thing in one shot. I tried that, or I did that with the primer, but it just gets so like, it just becomes too much. So we are going to break it down. I'm going to do the roof first, get that out of the way. That's the biggest panel. Tape off the sides and the engine bay and just we'll complete the roof. We'll do the sealer, base coat, clear coat. Then I will tape off that whole section and probably do the engine bay after that. Actually, the whole front clip. And then we'll do the two sides one at a time. So broken down like that should really help with just everything. And if you get errors or something, you're not jeopardizing the entire paint job. So let me go ahead and show you my paint guns here. So I have a dedicated primer gun and a dedicated base clear gun. So I'm switching things up a little bit. I'm going to be putting the 1.4 millimeter tip that I typically use for base clear onto this primer for the primer sealer and these touch-up areas I gotta do, because that 2 millimeter tip I have, this thing kind of just lays on the paint really thick and it usually doesn't leave as good of a surface. I wish I had like a 1.7 1.8 millimeter tip. I would use that for the surfacer, but we'll put the smaller tip on my primer gun and see how that works out for us. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, so we should be done with the primer surfacer now. Got everything covered up. Take a look at the engine bay here. I hit all the seam sealer spots just to cover those up. And then yeah, check out how this turned out. I'm super happy with it. Obviously not like extremely perfect, but compared to before, that massive hole we had there, looking good. So let's take a look at the rear quarters here. These just look amazing. Can't believe how good these turned out. Alright, it's the next morning. Let's go ahead and look at the roof. So it did not turn out great. It's actually a little bit better than I expected to walk into from last night, but it is still not good enough for a base coat. So the issue that I was having here is kept getting air coming through the line instead of paint. That's basically because when I hold this parallel to the roof, it allows air to get in that hole. So what am I supposed to do there? Mix up enough paint so that hole gets covered, but then I'm gonna be left over with a bunch of wasted product, which is not ideal. I don't think I'm gonna do another round of sealer on the roof because that sucked. I'm just going to wet sand this with 600 grit before the base coat, which should be fine. That's how I painted my whole hatchback. So I'm just going to do it that way. But when it comes to laying down the base coat, I'll be in the same situation. Having to mix up all that extra product to get that hole covered. So I'm thinking what I'll do is try to get the engine bay done at the same time so I can mix up a lot of paint, get the roof done, and then I can spray the engine bay with my gun more vertically and use up the rest of that paint. So another thing I want to do to help this be successful is I'm going to go get some slow reducer, so hopefully this stuff doesn't flash off so quick, and hopefully that'll help. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get this roof wet sanded and see where we're at from there. Alright, so it's a few days later. I have this roof wet sanded with 600 grit. It's all blocked out and looking very smooth and very straight here. So I formulated a new plan. My friend Garrett's going to be stopping by later. He's a body man by trade. He does this every single day. So between the two of us, we should be able to get it done. You might remember him from the first video. He helped me remove this rear quarter glass here, and that was a huge help. And he's also got his own YouTube channel. He hasn't posted much, so go over there and rate his channel and leave a comment and tell him to make some more videos. But besides that, he's also gonna bring by his spray gun, which is probably a lot higher, more higher end than mine, and it's got a different cup configuration, which will allow it to spray horizontally without letting air get in like mine does. So that's going to be what the plan is. I'm just going to keep getting ready. He's going to be by a little bit later, and we're just going to knock this thing out. So that's the plan, at least. Keep watching and we're going to get it done. Alright, we're getting ready to spray this roof. I have Garrett here. He's going to give me a hand. We're just getting ready to mix it up. So I didn't even share the color yet. This is a color called Oslo Blue. It's a Porsche color. So we're going to see how that works out. But we're just getting ready to mix it up right now. And hopefully it works out. It's very humid today, but I don't have many options. So we're going to run with it. You know, whatever happens, happens. And take it from there. Recording. Alright, so I'm going to be pouring this. Hopefully not make a huge mess. It's a 2-to-1 mixture, so alright, wasn't horrible. And then we got the slow reducer here. There we go. Nice. Okay. Are you ready, sir? Yep. Coming your way. my friends, is why Garrett is the GOAT. Alright guys, we got that first coat laid down. It's looking really good here. This is where all my bodywork imperfections start to show themselves, but it is what it is. So, almost fell. So we're gonna put the second coat on right now. Alright, we got that second coat of base on there. Everything's going really good, so we're going to go ahead and start the clear coat. Alright, so we're mixing up the clear now. This one is a 4-to-1 ratio. That's nice. You can tell I'm a professional. There we go, all mixed up. Alright, so I'm just going to film a little bit of this because it's going to get real nasty real quick. Yeah, this clear is ridiculous. Alright, just got this second coat of clear laid and it looks like glass. Definitely a little bit of dirt in there, but we're in a garage. There's not much you can do. But Garrett, how did it lay down?
It's pretty good. There's some texture in it, but nothing that probably can't be saved with a little bit of buffing. Like you said, pretty good for a garage paint job.
Alright, so let's check in on this. This is the next day. The roof has cured overnight and gotta say it just looks amazing. I mean, I'm not usually good with words, but this is like the point of the build that really changes everything. Getting actual automotive paint on the panels, so I'm super happy with it. This is probably the biggest imperfection right here. It's gonna be hard to pick up on the camera. That's how tiny it is, so like Garrett said, most of that can be buffed out, and I am happy the way it is. So anyways, we gotta keep going. It's easy to celebrate the victories, but there's still a lot of work to do. Gonna be doing the front clip next here. That's gonna get sealer, base coat, and clear coat, and everything is pretty much vertical, so shouldn't be an issue. So yeah, let me just show you this here. So one thing I didn't really talk about yesterday was the gun that Garrett brought over. It's this 3M. It's actually made out of plastic. It's got these awesome cups on here that you can mix right in the cup, and then they all have these disposable liners in here, and these just basically scrunch up as you use the paint. So definitely gonna have to invest into one of these setups. That is the future. But I'll throw up a picture on the screen of what he used. And it also had these like the front of the gun actually like comes off, and it's super easy to clean. So definitely something to look into if you're doing this yourself. Those metal cups, I mean, they kind of suck compared to this new technology. So anyways, we're just gonna keep moving forward here and start going into this front clip. Also, I just saw that he left some of these behind. This is what these tips look like, so you can clean them a few times and then just throw them out and grab a new one. So definitely pretty cool, but just wanted to show you that. Alright, I'm just gonna take this tape off. So this part was pretty hard to tape off. Probably gonna have a few spots that will need touch up, but it's better than taking the windshield out. Just got a little bit of gray on that lip, but it's not too bad. Alright, moving on to the next part. I got this front clip all prepped and ready to go. It's going to be like a 90-degree day today, so hopefully it goes alright, but that's why I got that slow reducer, so I don't see why I would have any problems. And then, you know, I'll be using my own equipment this time and doing it by myself, so hopefully everything goes to plan and I can get this done, but we will see. Alright guys, so I got that coat of sealer down. It turned out really good. It gets super disorienting once that overspray cloud starts to form, but it went on really good. So Unfortunately guys, my camera battery is dying, and I'm just gonna do this next base clear coat with no footage so I can keep things moving. The overspray just gets crazy anyways, so next clip you'll see is a finished bay. Alright guys, I got a little bit of battery left. Just laid down the base coat. Looks beautiful. Got good coverage, so just one more coat of base and we're on to clear. But what a transformation. Alright, it's bright and early the next morning. I got that clear laid down yesterday. Check this out. The CRV is really starting to come alive here. Coming to its own. So, super happy with that, but can celebrate a little bit, but gotta keep moving forward. Gonna get this thing covered up. Start on that other far side. Gonna be another hot and muggy day out, so trying to get as much done as I can as quickly as I can before that heat rolls in. So just keep at it. Alright, I am just about ready to lay down a sealer coat here. So this is where I decided to tape it off. Should be a nice hidden seam there. Still got to close up this back end, but this side is all prepped and ready to go here. Alright, I just laid down that coat of sealer here. It almost got away from me. I have a few dry spots on the roof here. I was trying to conserve my slow reducer, so I used the medium reducer. And I should have just bought another slow. It's just too warm out. Flashes too quickly to cover a lot of ground, so but I don't think there's going to be any issues, so we're just going to run with it. Definitely glad that I don't have to sand it down again, so just got to keep going. Alright guys, it's a new day here. I got that passenger side finished up with the base coat clear coat, and it looks amazing. I'll show you that in a second here, but the garage is getting absolutely destroyed. I upped the number of fans here to help evacuate some of that overspray, but it just gets pretty crazy in here. But anything that I didn't cover or put away is pretty much ruined or changed forever. But there's nothing in here that I can't really live without, so I'd much rather have a cool CRV with a good paint job. So anyways, yeah, just check out this floor here. I don't know how much the camera picks up, but pretty caked with overspray. But alright guys, so let's check this out. There we go. Hopefully the camera does a good job of picking up how nice it looks. In person it just looks crazy. Super happy with this color. Everything laid down really nice. I'd say the hardest part about this side was making sure I get this top inside edge here, which I had to put my arm in a really weird position to get that coated, but got that done and it looks good. So just glad to be done with another side here. Here is that tape job I did with the VIN number. So really happy that I kept that VIN sticker visible. Just another nice touch there. And we got our beautiful fabricated quarters here. So looks good. And then we got this extra jam area done as well. You can see that seam that I had taped off. So when I do the next part, I'll just tape like an 1/8 inch in, and that seam won't even be visible. So like I said, it's a fresh day here. I just have this last side to get knocked out before we can start moving on with this project. So I'm just gonna keep prepping here and getting this side prepped for paint. Alright, so I thought I'd do a bit of a pause here. I'm working on prepping this side. I'm going to be retaping these stickers here and scuffing it down before we lay down our sealer, but thought I'd take a minute just to show you guys this 3/4 view here. It's completely blue, so that just looks awesome. Can't wait to get some really nice shots of this car all put together. It's gonna be cool. So I'm just gonna keep working on prepping this thing. Alright, one last look before I start spraying this. It's got new plastic and it's all taped up and all wiped down with the wax and grease remover. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing sealed. Alright, I got that sealer laid down. I'm really starting to like that stuff. I didn't use any sealer on my hatchback, but I can definitely see how it can make a difference in the end result here. But I'm gonna keep on going because once you start, you cannot stop. I'm gonna lay down the base and the clear. Sadly, I think I said I was gonna film it. I'm not going to because it just gets way too chaotic in here, and I'd rather focus on getting it laid down properly. So that's what I'm gonna do. I promise I'll get some footage of the doors and the hood when it comes time to do that, hopefully at least. So anyways, I'm just gonna keep going, and next time you see this, it will be painted. Alright, I just laid down that base coat. Figured I'd take a break and show you guys how it looks. So the thing with base coat, you don't need that wet look. Even if there's like a little dry spot here and there, it's all gonna get taken care of with the clear. As long as the pigment's there, it's gonna be fine. So just wanted to show you guys this real quick, and now I'm gonna hammer this clear on. Alright, it's actually done. Cannot believe it. This is literally crazy. Another successful application here. Probably the best one so far. Laid it on super wet. Just have like a very slight clear buildup right here. I don't know if you can see that. It's so tiny. Definitely fixable, but that's actually a good thing because that means I was really at my maximum amount of clear that I could put on there. So yeah, this side turned out even better than the other side. Oh, another run right there. So that stuff is fixable though, so not a problem. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So since I'm done, I can unwrap this thing and reveal it to the world. I'm going to take a minute real quick and take off this masking off of these stickers. It's got to be really delicate so I don't pull up any clear, but I just painted it an hour ago, so hopefully we don't have any problems, and it's still soft enough to tear up. But anyways guys, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, what can I say guys? Hit the like button for real paint jobs. I always see these Rust-Oleum turbo cans are getting millions of views. So let's get a like for real paint jobs. So Alright, so that was pretty satisfying, removing that masking tape. Got our stickers back. Yeah, check out this one. Looks like this CRV left the assembly line March 2001. So 23 years ago. And 23 years later, it's getting a new lease on life. Built in Japan. Okay, so I've been waiting to do this for a while now. Alright guys, so it's the next day. I got this thing fully unwrapped. Still hard to believe this is the same car. This thing looks amazing. I love this color. It's actually very similar to my hatchback color, but it doesn't have any metallic. And it's just a little more blue. But I really wish you guys could see this in person because it just looks even better. So anyways, I didn't make too many mistakes, but they're bound to happen. Overall, everything went as good as it could, and like I'm completely happy with it. So that said, there's always going to be a few things I'll point out right now that, you know, will be there to bug you for the rest of your life. And, you know, they're really not bad, but when everything else looks really good, it's easy to spot the bad stuff. So the engine bay, I pretty much have zero complaints. Our repair over here looks awesome. And yeah, nothing wrong here. And then this is the side I just did. So these A-pillars and upper rail just turned out awesome. They turned out like glass, so those look good. And then the only thing on the roof, I think I showed that already. There's like a pimple on the roof. It's hard to see on camera. And then these areas, I don't know what happened. There was like maybe dirt on the paper or something. But this area got like really turbulent as I was spraying it. So, but that's not a big deal because it gets mostly covered with plastic. So you really won't see much of that. Then we got our stickers. Those turned out perfect. And then we got that same thing with that texture on here. And then small drip. And then this part right here, there's just like a weird textured area that I must have missed or something. I don't know what happened. I mean, that's probably the worst thing all around. Got a drip right here. I think I showed that already. This all looks like glass. A couple little things in here, but that can probably be buffed out. Drip here. Jam area looks perfect. This quarter panel, I wish I would have went on a little bit harder on that last coat, but it still looks really good, and that can be buffed. But the less buffing you have to do, the better. So over here looks perfect. A little bit of that texture right here. Might have been just blowing. Somehow stuff from the inside might have been coming out. Texture, but gets covered with plastic. And then yeah, same thing on this side. The A-pillars look awesome. I mean, we even got the aprons painted, which you'll never see. So pretty sweet, guys. Let me tell you the plan moving forward, or the order of operations that I'll be doing. So we have to get these wheel wells undercoated so I gotta go buy some undercoating. That shouldn't be too hard. And then we're done painting for a while. All the other painting is gonna wait until we get a rolling chassis here. So it's gonna be mechanical from here on out for a little bit. I want to get that subframes on, all the new suspension parts. These large suspension parts I'm gonna be just spray bombing. I would like to do more, but this project needs to get rolling, and this thing is gonna be like Legos when I'm done with it, so it'll probably be apart again as we're modifying it even more. So, and as far as the interior, I'm not touching any of this. This will be a later date, probably even after the last video. We're just gonna get it functional in here with some seats that I have. I got some really cool seats for this thing, and we just got to work on getting that manual trans in and all of the necessary things for that. So I want to really take my time on the interior and make this a super nice car, because I want to daily drive this thing. So, oh, and then one thing up here, this was exposed. Actually, I probably told you guys this already, but overspray. So the garage is kind of cleaned up. As I said, it's like every horizontal surface has been covered with overspray, so it'll be a long time before that gets really clean. We'll have to do a deep clean after this project is over. But anyways, guys, hope you're liking it so far. This is the exciting part that I really look forward to. It's a lot cleaner. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Well, I guess not all I have to say. This stuff right here should be fairly easy. Should be a little bit easier and more forgiving, and you can kind of move them around where you want them. Unlike the chassis, which is just a 1,000 pound paperweight that you have to work around. So anyways, I'll do an update in a little bit to kind of see where we're at. Alright, so the original plan for today was to get these wheel wells undercoated, but there's some spots under here that I want to hit with seam sealer. So there's like a spot here. I want to hit all this with seam sealer. Hit all that. And then this is that repair area. I want to put some seam sealer all up in here. So I'm going to get that done first. So let's look over here. So when I did this last time, my intuition was correct on just squirting this out, but what I forgot is I just threw these to the side. These are the nozzles for these things, but it mixes it like 100 times inside that tube. So that's how it's supposed to work. But to be honest, just mixing it up like body filler, that worked just as good to me. And these are probably one-time use anyways, so just gonna mix up a big dollop of this stuff and just spread it on there. I don't think I showed how this works before. It comes out in two parts that get mixed together, so squeeze it out. Do 6 pumps. Should be enough for one wheel well, and then if I have any left over, we'll just go to a different wheel well. But only has a certain amount of working time, so gotta be quick. So I'm gonna go ahead, well, I can mix it right here. Stuff stinks, so I want to get a respirator on ASAP. Yeah. Alright, I got the passenger side done. Definitely going through a lot more than I thought I would. I ran out of the tube that I was using. So yeah, I like this seam sealer stuff. I really didn't think I was going to be using a lot of it, but definitely seems like it adds some good protection. So here's where I ran out. I just got those two spots here. And I ordered this new tube. It came overnight from Amazon. So what I used before was a urethane seam sealer. This is an epoxy. I got this one because it was like 20 bucks cheaper and readily available. And from what I can tell, there's really no discernible difference between the two. Urethane might be a little bit more flexible, but this is gonna work. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up some more of this and get it applied. Okay, today's a new day. I did this yesterday, and I was going to do the rears, but I decided I wanted to add a little more paint on the inside of the wheel wells here, so I'll try to give you a look here, but I just wanted to load up that weld edge. So here's that inside weld edge. You can see I added a bunch more primer, and then I just loaded up the inside here with primer as well, and I'm going to be just putting a bunch of seam sealer in there. Hopefully keep the rust monster away. I'm also going to be hitting this whole area with seam sealer, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now and show you guys what it looks like after I'm done. Alright, just to keep you guys in the loop of what's going on here, so this is like day 3 or 4 of doing seam sealer. Originally planned on this being like a 1-day thing, but just between waiting for it to dry, waiting for new tubes to show up, it's taking longer than I thought, and there's more spots that I keep finding. So I ordered another tube of seam sealer because I ran out again. And we're in the passenger side rear wheel well here. Just found some chunks that I wanted to chisel off here. More spots to seal up. You can see all this old stuff down here. Probably wasn't completely necessary, but these areas just seem like they needed a little more. So anyways, I'll show you guys what the wheel wells look like when I'm done, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I am finally done with the seam sealer, at least in the wheel wells. Turned out really good. I already went through over half that tube. Try to give you guys a good look at the inside here. So I have that entire weld seam coated. I really loaded it up on this repaired area. Hopefully give this thing the best chance possible during a Wisconsin winter. So we're just making our way around here. This is the driver's side rear. It's all the spots that I put it in. I'll get you another good shot of the inside here on the driver's side. This side I really put a ton of goop in there. And then this side also has the gas cap filler hole, so I loaded that up too. Alright, finally got that sealer applied. I'm going to have to wait for that to cure overnight before I can undercoat it, but there's plenty to do in the meantime. So there's one thing I'm pretty sure I haven't even mentioned yet. If you saw one of my other videos, I leaked it, but I'm doing a full 5-speed swap on the CRV. I already have all the parts, so I guess I'll just start over here. I have this shifter box plate here from a manual CRV. That's got to get installed right there. I'll probably just tack weld it on, but first I'm gonna have to remove all this sound deadening in this area. And also there needs to be a hole for the shifter cables to go through, and they're actually right here. So this oval goes through right here, so I gotta cut that hole in there. So there's that. There's bolting this pedal assembly on, and there's just a lot of stuff to put together. And you got to remember, I took this thing apart over 6 months ago, so I forgot probably a lot of where things go, but I just use a lot of context clues and like where they are, in my piles, to kind of just figure it out. Plus I have all the diagrams from the service manual that show all the systems, so it's really not too hard to figure out. So let me just go over here. So we have our pedal assembly here, shifter box, and then something I've been procrastinating a little bit is I got to get these suspension parts coated. So I'm not going to be getting these sandblasted or anything at this time. We're just going to knock off the rust the best we can, degrease it, and then I'll just be hitting it with this flat black paint. So we'll be able to get all that stuff bolted on. So that's kind of a basic rundown of where we're going here. One thing I just saw, I'm also getting I have to get these trailing arms done. So they require pretty much a complete rebuild. I just bought this to remove the lower ball joints on these spindles over here, and I can't wait to show you guys. I have a mountain of parts that I bought from Rock Auto, so as soon as I can get the subframe and everything coated and I can start bolting parts on, I'll bring all that stuff in the garage and we can take a look at it. So I guess next step here is just going to start on this shifter box area. Alright, so I'm getting ready to cut this hole in the floor for the cables. So I was able to find an old Honda Tech thread with the location. So this is what a stock manual CRV, what it looks like. And I got it pretty close here. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark this with a Sharpie. So hopefully that works out for me. Now I'm going to drill a hole in here to allow room for my air saw blade. Alright, so my SD card decided to be full 45 seconds into cutting this, but I'm not entirely mad because it was pretty gnarly, but I did get it. You can see the blank here. So now I'm going to go ahead and deburr the edges. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and test fit these cables. There we go, fits perfect. It's really tight and good. Alright, now that that's done, it's time to move on to the next step here, which is to paint this whole thing. So I'm going to paint this whole bottom area, paint this bottom of this plate, and then we'll be tacking that in with 6 tacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should be plenty to hold this in. It's just a shifter box. Instead of the 20 spot welds that Honda put on here, which is a little overkill. So maybe one day in the future when this car gets scrapped out, somebody can easily cut this off for their manual conversion. Alright, this area is pretty much done. I got my hole put in there. Everything is primed and painted. And then this is just going to get tacked in here right about there. So I'm just going to have to scratch off a little paint where my weld areas are. But before we finish that off, a package just came in the mail. So I ordered brand new fenders for this thing because I was looking at my other ones and they actually had some pretty like deep pitting rust like in a couple spots. So for as cheap as these are, I just bought 2 more. They're like $40 a piece. I can almost guarantee you they're going to be damaged, but I'm going to unwrap them right now and we can take a look. Alright, let's take a look at the first one. Okay, so did I get lucky? I don't see any initial damage here. Oh, usually these are just like bent in. I might have got lucky on this one. Should be a first. Sweet. And these I'm actually going to be modifying. We gotta cut them like the back fenders. It's gonna get cut along this edge. Alright, let's open up number 2. Alright, let's take a look at number 2 here. Alright, there's no way I got that lucky. There we go, this one looks good. I don't see any dents or anything. So that is pretty awesome and only $40 each. I mean, you can't go wrong, really. And check this out, guys. I hung this one up. That is what I'm talking about. So that is cool. So all I'm going to do now is get this plate tacked on there, get the shifter can get bolted on, I can put my cables in, and once that's done, I'm going to be tarping this thing one more time with plastic for two reasons. One, I need to undercoat the wheel wells and I want to protect it from overspray, and I need to paint these subframes and I want to paint them in here, and I don't want to get overspray on my brand new paint job. So that's the plan. Alright, check it out, guys. I got this shifter box installed. This looks amazing. Super happy with the way that came out. So I just wanted to get that finished so I could put that hole in there for the cables without any interference with the subframes. So now that that's done, I can get this covered back up in plastic so I can undercoat the wheel wells and work on the subframes, and we can start getting stuff bolted together. Alright, the CRV is wrapped back up and I have these wheel wells taped off. Take one last look at what they look like. A lot of prep work went into these. I also tried to scuff it up the best I could. So the product that I'm going to be using is this SEM rubberized undercoating here. This is a professional grade brand, so hopefully that'll work out good. Alright, so I got this wheel well done. I really wasn't sure on how that was going to apply, but just comes out of the straw. It expands a little bit, and my finger's kind of tired because you got to press it so hard, but I did get it, and I mean, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the front now. Alright, so of course I ran out of undercoating, so tomorrow I'm going to have to go get another can. But this stuff looks amazing. Super happy with the way this is turning out. So I'll just have to wait so I can finish the passenger front and touch up the rear a little bit. But in the meantime, there is still plenty to do here. So I'm going to cover this thing back up. And get started on these subframes. So yeah, we can just take a look here. So just a little bit of needling, and we'll be hitting it with this Rust-Oleum paint. So that is the plan. So I'm just going to go ahead and start doing that. Alright, so I figure I'll start with the hardest ones first, which is going to be these rear trailing arms. The passenger side looks a lot better because that's one that I got out of a part out. But I'm going to have to reuse my driver's side, which is in a little bit worse condition, but structurally it seems pretty solid. So there's a couple things I'm going to have to do, like this bolt that is broken off right here. I'm just going to cut that off and use a bolt and a nut. So that shouldn't be a big deal. Still have to get this front link off. I'm sure that bolt is frozen in there, but we'll get that out. And then we got these larger bushings right here. Those have to get hammered out and replaced as well. So plenty of work to do on these things. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so I'm going to give something a try here. These bolt heads on the back here are impossible to get. So I'm going to just try to hit this straight on like that and try to break it. Alright guys, so somehow a miracle happened and I was able to loosen up these bolts with a vice grips, and now I can turn it with a wrench. So that is awesome. Alright guys, so I think I got this thing loose, so I started pounding this out. I actually started pounding from the other way at first, but I looked it up and that is wrong. So you want to hit it back to front. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this. I got it just moving a little bit, so I thought I'd turn the camera on and finish it off. There we go. Alright, that's about as far as I'm going to go on this trailing arm. I'm just going to leave the parking cable in because I can't get the bolts out anyway. And this brake line, that's just going to stay there. I'll just run it next to that. So this is stuff that, you know, I can always come back to later when I have it torn apart again, which is inevitable. Like, I'd like to put new bearings on here, but that's just extra time and money. And if that fails, typically you're going to know ahead of time it's going to make noise or something. So it might make noise right away. I don't know. But I'm just going to get this bushing surface cleaned up nicely. And then just basically spray bomb this and move on to the next one right away. So yeah, getting her done. Alright, now time to hit it with the greatest restoration tool known to mankind. That would be this flat black spray paint here. So, got it looking pretty decent, got all the chunks knocked off, and it should be good enough for now. So, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing sprayed. Alright, this thing is practically brand new. So this turned out really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other one to this point here, and then they'll get reassembled on the workbench. So comparatively, this one is in way better condition than my other one there. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out this bushing right here. Alright, so I got this one scuffed up with some 320 grit. This one's in way better condition than my other side, but I'm going to go ahead and hit it with brake cleaner and then paint it. Alright, so I'm getting ready to work on this trailing arm here. Got it up on the bench, which is a little more comfortable than being on the floor. So this is the replacement trailing arm bushing right here. So there's going to be a couple things to note here. So as you can see, this longer side, this is going to go towards the inside of the car. And then there's also this round edge, which I think is actually like a newer development, because when I was researching this, most of them had just a straight edge that looked like this side. So that makes it obvious that that is the side that we'll be pressing in. So one more thing here that's not super obvious is there's going to be a thicker part and then a thinner part up here. This goes towards the bottom. I don't know why that makes a difference. Pretty much everything else looks symmetrical, but that is what I'm finding online. So anyways, as far as clocking this, basically I'm just going to eyeball it up. This is kind of perpendicular to this arch here, and then this is going to go kind of straight this way. So pretty easy to line up here. So just be pressing it in a little bit with my hand, and then I'm taking this old bearing here and I will be hammering it like that. Alright guys, wish me luck. This is the first trailing arm bushing I've ever put in. Alright, so that did not work, so we're going to see if we can use the laws of thermodynamics to help us out here. This has been in the freezer for like 20 minutes, so I'm going to try to pound it in again. So, still not going in. This should be like flush with this, and alright, so I was able to get that bushing hammered in there. No special tools necessary, so it looks like it's all the way in, and I'm assuming it's all the way in, but just for some cheap insurance here, I'm going to put a couple tack welds. I'm going to be putting one right up here and one right here, and I'm not going to be like hammering a weld into that crack. I'm just going to bridge that, so at a later date, if I need to cut that off, just a couple nips with the cutoff wheel, I'll be able to get that out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Alright, got those welds on there just to make sure that thing stays put. So that is officially done. I'm going to go ahead and start assembling these drum brakes. Should be a little bit easier on the bench here versus on the car. So I'm going to gather up my parts and do that. I'm getting ready to put these rear brakes back together. It looks like I'm going to have to reuse a few of the old parts. This silver piece here, this piece, and this piece. Everything else will be brand new. So let me go ahead and try to get these put together. I gotta say, drum brakes are such a strange thing. It's one of those examples of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's like a design they were using 60 years ago on cars, and they probably still use pretty much the same setup today, just with all these springs and everything. And once you get it together, it becomes like one unit, but before that, it's just like a bunch of loose springs. But very cool. They are efficient at stopping cars. They are just not as good as dissipating heat as disc brakes. So maybe one day we'll do a rear disc swap on the CRV. People already have all the parts you need figured out to convert these to 5-speed. It uses like different parts, like prelude calipers, I think, and just different parts from different cars, and it works. But for now, I am more than happy with just having drums. But this trailing arm is done. Just a little touch-up paint, and it can go on the car. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other side trailing arm up here and get that finished. And we're just moving right along here. Okay, I have this trailing arm done. This side definitely went a lot quicker than the last side. Got these drums together. So the hardest part about these drums is I just kept making mistakes. Like, you just saw me put this side together and I struggled to get this spring on. Well, I had to take it back off because this fork on this adjuster arm needed to be flipped because one side is longer than the other. So I spent more time getting the spring back on, which was pretty frustrating. So that's another point to disc brakes being just a little bit more simpler to work on. But anyways, we got her done. Should give us plenty of stopping power here. I'm going to start moving on to the next parts of the subframe. Alright, so I got this subframe prepped up pretty good. I hit it with brake cleaner, degreaser, scuffed it up. Not a perfect job by any means, but should keep the rust away at least for a little bit. So now I'm just going to hit it in the rusty spots with this rust neutralizer here. So there's no need to put this on the parts that are good. You can see a lot of this subframe is actually in pretty good shape with that factory finish on there. So yeah, let me go ahead and just spray this on. And this is going to chemically activate with the rust. Alright guys, it's a new day. Yesterday I finished up that front subframe and trailing arms. We are so close to being able to start bolting this stuff together. So what I have here is the rear subframe and diff mount along with a piece from the front subframe. So I already started scraping them a little bit and wire brushing them. I'm going to have to needle them a little bit. Then I'll be hitting it with some degreaser and getting the stuff painted. Alright guys, new day, new project. Yesterday I finished up these rear subframe parts and they are looking amazing. So we are winding down on all these suspension parts. We just have the front spindles left and the shock forks. So I already started a little bit on here removing these old ball joints. I got this one removed. This is the old one. So this is why you want to change out your lower ball joints. You can see how easily that just moves along. So anyways, I bought this lower ball joint adapter tool for Hondas. I didn't realize that you're supposed to actually buy the tool as well, which is like the big C-clamp. So I'm not going to fork out the money for that, so hopefully I can just get by with a regular C-clamp. But for removing these things, the clamping actually didn't do anything for me. I was able to get a lot of pressure on it, but the thing that did it in the end was the BFH. So that thing just knocked it right out. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys on this ball joint the technique for hammering these things out. So let me just go ahead and put you guys on the stand here. Alright, let's give this a shot. So first you got to take off this rubber boot. It just pops off. And then this is the piece that fits over this. Perfect fit. And I kind of got it locked in this hole here, so see if it comes out. So we're starting to get movement over here. You probably can't see it, but it is coming out. There we go. Got it out without smashing my dustpan up here once, so pretty good. But these are probably OEM ball joints. This one's got a little more life in it. So this one might have been replaced at some point because there is some damage here. Maybe someone was messing with it. But this one is a little stiffer than this one. So that was easy enough. I'm going to have to track down my new ball joints. Hopefully I can get them pressed in. But before I even do that, these have to get refurbished. And I'll just be scraping off all this scale. Maybe needle it a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and get that done right now. Alright, if you needed any more proof of the effectiveness of this needle tool, this is it right here. This one on the right is about 15 minutes of using that descaling tool. And it took that thing right down. It used to look like this one on the left. So very cool, just wanted to point that out. I'm going to go get this one knocked out and we'll be that much closer. Okay, so these are all prepped and ready to paint, so I thought I'd give you guys one last look here. So this is a pretty big deal because this is pretty much the last of the nasty, gross 20-year-old parts that I have to deal with. There might be a couple things I find here and there, but as far as like big items, that is pretty much it, which I am very happy for. After this is done, we get to unwrap this beautiful beast here and just start bolting on parts, which I really like doing. So anyways guys, I'm going to go ahead and get these painted right now. Okay, so I got these spindles done and I'm getting ready to install the lower ball joints. I already went ahead and cleaned up this surface area in there. So normally I would always say nothing but OEM lower ball joints. This is a super critical part in these Hondas. If it fails, your car goes ka-chow and you're on the side of the road. That being said, I did end up going with an aftermarket ball joint. Why would I do that, you ask? Well, I found this brand called TTX. They're supposedly a heavy duty ball joint. They appear to be pretty good quality, and this is how they're supposed to be. I can't even move this stud by hand, and this is what it came with. These are actually designed slightly different. They have a snap ring, which is going to help keep that thing in place, which is a pretty cool design change. And this is a new, these cotter pins look different. Maybe that's how they all are now. But anyways, I got this one kind of loaded in here. So I don't know if this is how this is supposed to work, but I'm just going to put this adapter in here, and then this over the top. This will go over here, and I'm just going to use my clamp here and press it in. So hopefully that works, but I'm gonna go ahead and get set up for that right now. Alright, check it out. That actually went way easier than I thought it was going to be. So, pretty cool. You can see the groove right here. That's where that snap ring is going to go. Just like that. Alright, these spindles are looking great. I'm going to have to hold off on the snap ring because I don't have a snap ring pliers, but moving forward, I have one more dirty thing to do before I can unwrap the CRV and start bolting on parts. I have to get these wheels and tires sorted out so I have something to set the car on. I'm not going to do a real crazy job on these. I'm just going to spray bomb the faces, not tape the tires off or anything, because I have a whole new set of tires that have just been waiting to get mounted. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done right now. Alright, these wheels are prepped and ready to go. I hit them with the 320 grit, wire brush, Scotch-Brite pad, and wax and grease remover, so that should be enough to get a good bond on those wheels. There's been a slight change of plans here. I was looking for some primer in my basement and I came across this brand new can of Rust-Oleum aluminum colored paint here, and I was thinking I'm going to use this instead of this darker gunmetal one that I bought. I think this is just going to be a better contrast for the camera and everything instead of having dark wheels. So it doesn't really matter anyways. I mean, I can change it in the future if I want, but I'm going to hit it with the aluminum. But before that, I'm going to do a light misting of this white to try to make everything kind of uniform. Then I'm going to go through with 2 more coats of that aluminum silver color. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get this done. Alright guys, check out these wheels. They look pretty amazing. I'm glad I went with the silver color. It really pops. So these are going to be mounted to some general tires that I bought probably like 10 months ago now. So for now I'm going to be putting these to the side, getting this garage reorganized, getting the CRV uncovered, and just start laying out parts because stuff should start moving pretty quick now. So not stop until I get this thing on the ground, and yeah. Alright, I just wanted to show you guys real quick before I get these tires changed out how bad of condition these are in. You can just see all that dry rot. So the way to date a tire is to find the 4-digit number that is on the sidewall. So the first 2 numbers are the week and the last 2 numbers are the year. So this was made in the 42nd week of 2007. So these tires are 17 years old. So I think it's time to get them changed out. So I'm going to go ahead and get the new rubber put on these things. Alright guys, going on a little bit of a field trip here. I am going to the body shop where Garrett works. He's going to help me get these tires changed out, and I don't know if he's going to let me film, but we will see. I got the Mercedes loaded with tires in the back, so let's go ahead and get it done. Alright, so I'm not allowed to film here, which is understandable because it's a nationwide collision shop, but we're here. I'll just film the back of the Mercedes. We've got the new tires here, so just getting them unloaded and bringing them in the shop, and they'll be done in a jiffy. Alright guys, if you haven't hit the like button by now, now would be the time, because I'm about to reveal the CRV. I got all the parts staged and it just looks awesome. So without further ado, here we go. Check this out guys, this is what it's all about. It's what we've been working so hard to get to. A lot to unpack here. I'll just start out at parts mounting, which I've been talking about. Been hanging on to these for a few months now. Probably not that long, but it's been a while, and we're getting ready to bolt the stuff on. Sway bar end links, control arms, fuel tank, fenders, brake lines, everything we need to get this thing together. And then there's of course these tires you just saw me put together. Check out how meaty and amazing these things look. I spent a long time going back and forth on what spec tire I wanted. I ended up going with the 215 7515. Couldn't be happier. Then you may have noticed we got some SI seats that we'll be rocking in the CRV. So if you don't know, these are from 06 to 11 Honda Civic SIs, and they're super comfortable. They're Alcantara, and they have really good bolstering, especially if you're a skinny guy like myself. So that should completely change the driving experience. Then I've just been bolting on a few miscellaneous things just to get them off the floor. And as you can see, it's starting to look like a car again. And you may have noticed these pretty sweet coilovers down here. So after the last two CRV videos, MaxpeedingRods reached out to me to review their coilovers, which is mind-boggling to me. I just feel like a really small YouTuber, so that's awesome that they reach out to small YouTubers like myself and allow us to do this. So that video will be coming up shortly, and I think they look awesome, so we'll see how they perform. And of course, you know, we have our suspension that we just rebuilt, so that should go back together like Legos. And yeah, overall, just really happy with the progress I've made so far, and this is just going to be one heck of a CRV. And I don't know, I guess that's all I got to say about that. So we're going to start bolting stuff together and move this build along. Alright, let's open up some of these boxes. Looks like we got some upper camber arms. Let's take a look here. So I went with a lot of the cheaper parts, the economy parts, because I don't know how good their ranking system is on Rock Auto. So we'll put them to the test, but alright, so in this box I opted to get a new steering rack. I might have got by with my old one, but anyone who knows CRVs knows that they're really hard to change once it's on the car. But it is still an aftermarket part, so there's no guarantee that it'll be a good part. This box came pretty beat up. Alright. So, got this off Amazon. This was actually cheaper than on Rock Auto, so it's like 150 or 180 bucks. It's got new inner tie rods on it already, so we'll give it a try. It's got to be better than the 24-year-old one that's on there. Alright, this isn't pizza. These are control arms. Get it in the screen here. There it is. And these parts are just so incredibly cheap. It's crazy. So we got a front lower. So yeah, take a look at this guy. Left side, pretty decent quality it seems like. Alright. Another arm. Here we go. Right side. Alright, I got my front subframe on the bench here along with my new rack. Looks to be of pretty decent quality. It's an Amazon special, so we'll see long term, but overall it looks decent. And then over here I have all my bolts laid out for the subframe. So these ones on the bottom are the ones that came off my CRV. I'm not going to be using those because the heads aren't in great condition. Probably still usable, but I have a whole spare set here that I got from the Part Out CRV where I got all my other parts. So these are in good shape, and that's what we'll be using. So anyways, so I looked up like 6 videos because I could not get this rack into the subframe, and everyone would like skip over the part where they're actually putting it in the rack because it's a pain in the butt. So I'm going to film putting it in the subframe. So first thing is to get this thing turned all the way to the passenger side here, so this part is as short as possible, and I'm going to put this on the tripod here and get this installed. Alright, so this is how you put the rack in. You put this side in first. And then this part has to get past. And then you got to make sure this is underneath this area here. You don't want it like this because you won't be able to get it in. So just like that. And it slips right in. So it's pretty difficult, but once you know how to do it, it is easy. So anyways, that is it. Alright, so I am back under the CRV to check things out before I bolt these subframes in. So I actually have to finish these areas over here. I never finished painting these, so they got to get prepped and wire brushed. And I need to go get some more paint, and I'll be taking care of these areas with some more of that rust neutralizer. So I got to get this done before I bolt in the trailing arms and everything. So, and I wanted to check these bolts too, make sure the threads are good. and they are. So as soon as I get this stuff painted, I can get this stuff bolted up. Alright, so I just prepped this area with the wire brush. Now I'm going to hit it with the rust reformer. Alright, now I'm going to hit it with the flat black top coat. Alright, everything's pretty well coated down here. Now time to get that subframe on. Alright, first subframe piece is back on the car. So now everything should just fall into place from here, and we're just going to get her done. Okay, I'm just getting ready to install these lower control arms here. These things look like they're perfectly symmetrical, but there's a nut is welded on here that's got to go towards the front of the car. So there is a left and a right. So anyways, just gonna use some anti-seize here. Load that up. So the thing with all of these suspension bolts is you don't want to tighten them until the car has all the weight on the ground, or else you're going to tear up your bushings. Alright guys, let's go ahead and take a look at these MaxpeedingRods coilovers. They sent me these to do a product review, so big thanks to them for looking out for the smaller creators. So we're going to be doing a separate video review on these, but for now we're just going to take a look. So right out of the box they look really nice quality. I believe these are their T6 model, which is their latest revision. It also features a 24-way adjustable dampering to adjust the stiffness, so we'll have to play with that, but overall these things look really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and get these installed on the car. If you guys want 10% off your order at MaxpeedingRods.com, you can use coupon code modntune. These coilovers really elevated my build to the next level, and I'm very excited to see how they handle. They also have a lot more than just coilovers. They have turbos, engine parts, suspension parts, electronics, and all kinds of other goodies for your car, so go and check them out. Alright, so I have them laid out on the bench here to take a closer look. I actually unscrewed the bottom of this one all the way just to see how much thread was in there, and you can see we got quite a bit. So one thing on my Skunk 2 coilovers that I have, a feature that I like that this doesn't have, is they have a sight hole drilled in here at the lowest point that you can safely do it. So like if these are spec to have like at least this much in to be safe, or this much, that hole would be right there and you would see it before you unthread it too much. So that's something they could probably improve, but other than that, they appear to be really nice quality here. So just a quick interjection here. I'm not one to read manuals, but I did look in the manual and it said to keep 25 to 30 millimeters threaded in for safety. There's also this part of the threads here that is machined differently. It looks like that's where you should stop, but there's nothing explicitly saying that, so I'm not sure. So from the factory, it looks like these were set at just over an inch, so I'm going to bump that up to 2 inches. I have no idea what that's going to settle to all in the end. I'll probably end up making some adjustments, but at least I'll get them all even and we'll go from there. It looks like these collars are already tightened from the factory, or like in a good spot, so I'm not going to mess with those. So yeah, anyways, I'm just going to get these set and put them on. Alright, I have all these set to where I want them, and when I said change it from 1 inch to 2 inch, I was just referring to this gap right here. That's going to set your ride height. That's not related to how low it's going to be. I'm going for a stock or slightly less than stock ride height, so I just raised these a little bit from the factory, but I really don't know where it's going to be once it settles. So anyways, that should be good. I'm going to have to get these shock forks installed on here, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, so I've been working on prepping the rear trailing arms to be installed. I've been digging deep in my own stash to find all the correct hardware, but I think I got them. I also went through and made sure every single hole is ready to accept a bolt and chasing the threads if necessary. So starting over here, we have the front linkage here. It has 2 bolts. This is the big trailing arm bushing. This is the upper linkage, and then this is the lower control arm. So everything is set and ready to go, so I'm going to go ahead and get these installed. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and get this trailing arm installed. Alright guys, this is looking amazing. Check this out. Got those drums on there too. Nice to know they actually come painted now. They used to just send them bare steel and they would rust right away. But anyway, I was going to do the front, but I am super impatient. I want to see this thing on the ground on those meaty tires. Alright guys, here goes nothing. Boom, check this out guys. She's on her own wheels. We need to get a back away shot. Holy Moses. So it's definitely going to settle a little bit, but I mean that's a pretty decent ride height. So pretty crazy guys. Can't wait to see this thing finished. There's some meaty tires. So pretty sweet guys. It's hard to believe this thing is on its own wheels again. It's a long time coming. So anyways, now that that's done, we get to move to the front. Alright, I was messing with this before, but I had to take it back apart to do some touch-up paint on the subframe. I'm going to show you how to install the steering rack on a first-gen CRV from start to finish. First we put in the rack, slip in this side first, and then have this turned all the way that direction to make this as short as possible. And then keep this low underneath here, and it just slips right in. Next I'm going to put in my brackets on this side. And then the rubber bushing. And then the top bracket, which will go like this. Now that that bracket is in, we got to put this on before we put any more bolts in. Because this bracket shares bolts on the power steering rack. Alright, I was able to get these two bolts in using these aftermarket racks. They definitely weren't like perfect alignment, but I was able to get them. So lastly, we have just these 4 bolts. There we go, it's installed. Alright, so the subframe is ready to go in. So just regarding these bolts, there's 4 long ones and 4 short ones. So these 2 are long. This one is short. This one is short. And this one's really short. So If anybody needed to know that, that's how these bolts go. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing underneath there and get the control arms out, because those are going to have to bolt in right afterwards because they share some bolts. So let's go ahead and get her done. Alright, so the subframe is bolted up in place. I'm going to go ahead and get the lower control arm installed now. Alright, just getting ready to install these upper control arms here. I got all my bolts. I painted the heads black, and then I also 3D printed these plastic washers here because they're going to go in the engine bay. I don't want to mess up that fresh paint, so I'm going to go ahead and get this installed. Okay, so I have those upper arms in on both sides, so now I'm going to go ahead and install this coilover. Alright guys, so everything is coming together really nicely. Let me tell you why these Hondas handle so good and why they're so sought after is because of the design of the suspension. They have a double wishbone suspension, which means they have this upper arm here. Most modern cars, or I'd say pretty much all modern cars, use a McPherson strut design, which does not have that upper arm, and the shock mounts directly to the top of the spindle. So it is a simpler and more robust design, no doubt. That's why they use them, for cost savings. But if you want good handling characteristics, this is so much better. When you turn the car, the wheels actually camber with the car, so you always have a full contact patch with your tires. The McPherson strut style, it's not capable of doing that. You lose contact, you know, when you're doing hard turning and going fast. So anyways, just a little bit about that. So now all I gotta do is get these spindles on, and we almost got this thing on the ground. Okay, my snap ring pliers came in from Amazon, $13 delivered overnight, which is pretty crazy. I tried every which way to do it without these, but I just couldn't get it, so let's get this on finally. Alright, so I'm just about to get these wheels on here. I thought I'd take a minute to just appreciate this beautiful suspension here. We got our MaxpeedingRods coilovers. Those things are looking amazing. And just all these new parts. So, looking very awesome. I'm going to go ahead and get these wheels mounted and get this thing on the ground. Alright guys, check this thing out. It is looking amazing, better than I could have hoped for. I'm open to all comments. I'd love for the comment section to get filled up. If you love it, let me know. If you hate it, let me know. That's the beauty of YouTube, is the human interaction. I like comments because you guys bring things up that I would never even think of, and it genuinely makes the videos better. So anyways, the CRV has been sitting for the past week and a half while I edited the 5 full 32 gigabyte SD cards into the 3.5 hour spectacle you just saw. It was a real brain blender, but I got it done. I'm definitely starting to improve my workflows a little bit. If you notice, there was no music besides the little bit in the intro, which really helped speed things up. And I'm not sure how much value the music was actually adding to my videos to justify all the extra time. I'm not going to stop using music, but definitely use it more sparingly. I'm also trying to do more voiceover. It takes some getting used to, but it is a helpful tool. So part 3, my goal was to get a rolling chassis. I previously intended for this part just to get all the painting done, but it made more sense just to paint the shell, and then I could just start bolting everything on that was on the garage floor, as space is pretty limited. So this feels like a nice break point, and in the next video we can finish out the remainder. There's still a lot of work to do, but I purposely made this only a 4-part series, so you know every video is going to have big progress in it. I think that was my mistake with my first WRX wagon build. I would just arbitrarily start and stop at random points on the build, and there was no real goal in mind, and I just stopped when I had a chunk of footage. So anyways guys, I'm going to be bowing out. I wish I could tell you when part 4 is coming out. I would guess a couple of months to finish it, but it just depends how smoothly it goes, and partly on how well this video does. If it does really good, it will definitely motivate me to go faster. Right now, I'm all about just putting out the highest quality content I am capable of. Hopefully in the future, I'll be able to make quicker, interesting content, but as a small YouTuber trying to make it, I can't afford to put out poorly performing videos. I'm just trying to be seen in the YouTube arena, which is difficult, but I don't think it's impossible. So anyways guys, I have to end this video somewhere. I could definitely just keep talking, but I'm going to go get scheming on the next video, and I'll see you in part 4. Thank you for watching.